Good evening. This is the Walpole Zoning Board of Appeals. Tonight is Wednesday, December 7th. It is 7 p.m. We have two cases that are going to be continued. First one is case number 22-4 for the Clock Tower in East Walpole, 140 Washington Street. At the request of the applicant, they would like to continue until January 18th and a continuation of time on the case until February 28th. Does anybody have any questions on this one?
Mr. Chair, I think it's January 19th would be our next meeting.
Oh, January 19th.
Yep. Oh, I'm sorry. You are right, January 18th.
January 18th. Okay. So January 18th for continuation date, 7 o'clock here at Town Hall. Does somebody want to make a motion for that and also a continuance of time until February 28th?
So moved.
Moved by Judy,
Second.
second by Drew. Any further discussion on continuing the Clock Tower case? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And voting tonight will be the five members that are here. Next one is another continuation. This is for 931 Main Street, right over here by the intersection. Case number 22-27. The applicant requests a continuation of the case until January 18th and a continuation of time until February 28th. Somebody make that motion, please.
So moved.
Moved by Judy,
Second.
second by Drew again. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay, now on to tonight's business. We have a request for a variance. This is case number 22-29, 26 Park Lane, Gabrielle Casado. And it's a variance pursuant to section 6B1, Schedule of Dimensional Regulations for relief to the minimum side yard setback within the Residence A zoning district. We have some correspondence, which I will read. Everybody has the plans with them, so as you review the plans, we have a letter from the fire department. The fire department, this is from Deputy Chief Paul Barry. The fire department has reviewed the plans and application for the variance regarding the above-mentioned location and offers the following comments. 1, if the request is approved, building plans, including the location of all life safety devices, will need to be submitted through the building department for our review. A follow-up Walpole Fire Department inspection will be conducted to ensure compliance with all approved plans. We have a letter from the Board of Health, and the Board of Health has no objections to the variance request. We have a letter from Town Engineer Carl Baldoff. He has reviewed the plans and offers the following comments. Variance, we do not object to the variance subject to the item below. And what he said in the item below is plan review. No grading is shown on the proposed, for the proposed addition. Surplus excavation material from the proposed addition shall be removed except that required to backfill the proposed foundation and existing driveway. We have a letter from Conservation, Landis Hershey, provided this. The area should be reviewed for wetlands within the 100 feet of activity. And I think, we have a letter, or a number of letters, all the same letters signed by different neighbors. And it says, Walpole Zoning Board of Appeals, Town of Walpole, to whom it may concern, the Casado residence at 26 Park Lane is applying for a variance for an attached 2-car garage with primary living space above. The said construction project will require a variance approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals due to the side yard setback. We are requesting for the Zoning Board of Appeals to grant the opportunity to build. Please use this letter as our official support of approval, and please feel free to reach out to, if any of you have any questions. And it is signed by 2, 4, 6, 8, looks like 9 neighbors signed this letter. Okay. Is there any other correspondence that we have? I think that's it.
That's it.
Okay. So at this time, if you want to come forward to the microphone up here, introduce yourself and explain what you're proposing to do.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Gabriel Casado, and I'm proposing a two-car garage with primary living space up above.
Okay. So one of the things for a variance is not something that's commonly given out from a zoning board, so there has to be a reason why you need this variance. So if you want to explain to us, some of it's in your application, but why you need the variance from the side yard setback, and how much of a variance you're requesting.
So the reason I'm requesting a variance for this side yard setback is a couple reasons. One of those reasons is the lot being undersized by about 60% of the entire lot size. My current lot size is 12,229, and the required lot size is, I believe, 30,000 square feet. One of the other reasons is the shape of the lot, the topography of the lot. If you look at the plans, my yard is almost like a pie shape. And the only real location where I would be able to go is the left side, the right side if I'm facing the house from the street. On the left side, I'm already at the 20-yard setback, and the water main and sewer run on that side. I viewed that option. I viewed the option of going into the back. Going into the back from the right side of the house would require substantial fill and concrete to bring it back up to grade to meet the driveway. And it's probably approximately 9 feet of wall. That would be the footing, the frost wall, and an additional 4 feet of wall possibly just to get back up to grade on the, to the driveway. I think the side yard setback that I'm requesting, because I lack frontage, I have 70, required is 150. I have, because of that, I believe it's section, excuse me for a minute, section 6C, number 9, for the side yard setback requirements, where I lack frontage. For every 10 foot, I get the foot on that, on the side yard setback, bringing the side yard setback to 15 versus the 20 on that. So I think in the rear of the house, I think it's approximately 3 feet, and maybe towards the front, I think it's somewhere around 6 feet that I'm asking for.
Well, it's you're coming 8.5 feet from the property line, and the requirement is 20 feet.
Yeah, that was prior to lacking the frontage. So now because it changed from the 20 to the 15, the 8'5" becomes greater, I believe.
So what the applicant is referring to in zoning bylaws, section 6C.9, side yard exemption. The language of that, if you mind, Mr. Chair, is on an existing lot specifically exempt from the frontage requirements herein by section 6C5, the required side yard width of a main building may be reduced 1 foot for each 10 feet in either rural or Residence A district, and for 5 feet in Residence B district or GR, by which the frontage of said lot is less than the minimum specified for its district, provided, however, that the side yard distance shall not be so reduced to less than 15 feet in rural Residence A district, or less than 10 feet in Residence B, or less than 6 feet in the GR district. So essentially, I guess what that would mean is that your frontage is 80 as opposed to 150, which is for the district. And I believe, so for 70 feet, I think you have 8.5. Sorry, so for each 10 feet that you are lacking in frontage, I guess according to this section of the bylaw, you're allowed to reduce your side yard by 1 foot, but
One
no less than 15 within the Residence A
Correct.
district.
So you could reduce it by 7 feet.
Yeah, so you could, I guess for every 10 feet that you're lacking,
Right.
you basically can reduce by 1
Oh,
foot on
okay,
the side.
so actually, it looks like lacking, because it looks like it's, am I correct? It's 70 feet on the frontage?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I think
lacking 80 feet, so that would be 8 feet.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to raise that I think that the board has the authority to approve this as a special permit as opposed to variance, which I just want to raise for discussion. Under section 9(4)(a), for a single-family home that is existing non-conforming, which this would appear to be with respect to a number of items, the lot area, front yard setback, side yard setback, et cetera. It allows for any change, extension, or alteration of the existing non-conforming one-family and may be permitted, provided the Board of Appeals grants a special permit, including a determination that such enlargement or an extension will not increase the non-conforming nature of the structure, or that such enlargement or extension will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. So I think we have a special case here where we're dealing with this is a one-family home, right?
Yes.
That would fall into this category as opposed to the variance standard. I just want to raise that for the board's consideration.
Yeah, I think that's a great find on your part. You should be very appreciative of Mr. Fitzgerald. I am
Very
right now
much.
because, yeah, so let's, a variance is really hard to get. And I looked at you talked about the slope of the property. You're talking about a 2-foot gradient difference in the property from the left side to the right side, at least according to the plans, and I know the area. There's a little bit of a slope, but not a significant slope. So I think, that's probably the approach we should take tonight. Do any other board members have any?
I thought that too. Do we have to re-advertise that, or do we have the?
So that's what I was actually just looking for is I have the legal, what was posted at Town Hall, but the, let's see, the legal ad
But, yeah, it's specific for a variance.
specific for a variance. Because sometimes the way to do it is where it says, or any other relief request necessary. But do you have, I don't have the ad.
Yeah, that's right here. To Mr. Fitzgerald, so 9(4)(a), in terms of having it be a non-conforming building, the non-conformity, which would be the lot size and the frontage, is not being reduced. It's the side yard, so which is already conforming, becoming non-conforming by the addition. So that's,
Right, but it says any other change, extension, so to me, I read that as any,
in compliance with this bylaw, though. So if the side yard is changing, is altering in a non-conforming nature,
okay.
you know what I mean?
So can we discuss the pros and cons of both the I mean, I know we always say a variance is hard to get. And I drove by and I stopped on Route 1 to look behind your house, and there is a topography quality to this application, even to the right side of the house. Do you have a neighbor to the right? How close are they to you?
I do have a neighbor to, if I'm standing in front of the
Yes,
house, yes, I
yeah.
do have a neighbor, that's
Right there.
George Murray.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
He's to the right. So where my trailer currently is now.
Yes, your trailer
it
was there.
slopes down,
It does.
if you will, and he's on the lower part of that,
Okay,
yeah.
Side yard.
And then it slopes down, going back down the back.
yeah. So, I mean, as far as the three reasons for variance would be topography of the land, financial hardship, and character of the neighborhood. I don't personally see this addition detrimental to the character of the neighborhood. Every house on that street is quite unique in their own building right. There isn't one, you know, there's capes, but they've had dormers, they've had things added to it, there's ranch style homes, so I don't think this addition didn't to me look to me like it was gonna be detrimental. The financial hardship is one thing, but I think if you link that to the topography of the land, where we can't go to the left side of the house on high ground because of the utilities, then his only other option is to the side.
Requesting a variance.
Where are, so you just mentioned the utilities, you talked about the utilities, where are the utilities? Because I don't see them on the plot plan.
I can give you, I forget the DPW town engineer's name. I think I have a copy of that, if the board would like to have it. Can I come up and give you this, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, sure.
See that step? So, this is the left side of the house, that's where the sewer line runs. There's multiple copies there if anybody else wants to see.
Okay, thank you.
Initially, DPW thought that it was on the side that the addition was going on, but that wasn't the case, and then he revised it.
Recognizing an old name on the contractor.
Oh,
I saw North Street, I'm going, wait a minute, I know that person.
Okay, well, this is helpful for your case, that's for sure. That's, the line is, okay. Bob, do you still think it can be a special permit, or where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I still do.
Were you guys talking about that with the special permit?
Yeah, I understand Bob's explanation of that as well.
The first part of it, in terms of, there are certain modifications you could make under just a building permit and not have to come to the board. And those are situations where you're enlarging it in compliance with the bylaw, so you're not creating any more nonconformities. But then the next part of that discusses any other change, extension, or alteration. And it doesn't have the same phrasing as in compliance with the bylaw. It just requires a finding that it's not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood.
Okay.
So, I don't know what that does procedurally in terms of, you know, I would hate to have to renotice everything just for that purpose, but.
So with that, with the notice, one of the things, we're just getting into some of the zoning stuff here. I've seen it before where the standard for a variance is a higher standard than a special permit. And you can justify going from a request for a variance down to a special permit. Where you would not be allowed to go from a request for a special permit to a variance. Have you seen that? Have you seen that before?
I don't know if it's spelled out like that under the Mass
I know it's
General
not spelled
laws,
out,
but yeah,
but that's, I've operated like that before, where the intent, you know, ideally, it should have been advertised, and I think in the future, we need to make sure that it says
For any
any
other
other relief deemed necessary. But, because, I agree, Bob, I'm trying to get it so that we don't have to have the applicant re-advertise. But I think if it was the other way around, if he came
Right.
here for a special permit and we were saying, well, we should be looking at a variance, I think that's a one you have to re-advertise. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
I agree with what you're saying.
Judy?
I kind of think you should re-advertise it, but just based on, it is a completely different story. And I guess my question is, how did the applicant get to this section to apply for? That's my concern. Who guided you, or did you just pick it yourself? Someone must have told you you needed a variance, and I just, like,
Well, yes, after submitting the plans,
To-
I got, in the portal, I looked and
yeah,
it said that it would require variance from the portal. I think it was from the building
the
department.
building department, okay.
That's usually how each application comes in from the
Okay.
zoning board. They meet with building first for their building permit. Building determines
Yeah.
whether they could do it by right or they need relief from a specific board.
So it sounds like the building department, I don't want to say misdirected, but
Or they might see
Didn't-
it differently, and that's
they're
where
seeing it
comes up.
differently, so that's what I mean. They're seeing it differently, so I guess, why are they seeing it differently than do the special permit under
Or did they consider,
94?
or did they consider,
Did they look that deep?
right.
Well, I mean, we could continue discussing whether it qualifies for a variance instead, if you'd like, or it's, you know, I guess we can consider it
Well-
without sending it back.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about if board members are comfortable with a variance. I personally, I'll just say, I look at the topography of it. I didn't know the position of the sewer line. That's, you know, that does make a difference, at least for me. So, you know, what do other board members think on a variance? Does it meet the high bar of a variance? So let me ask you, you're proposing a two-car garage in this location?
Yes.
You, if you built a one-car garage, would that be in compliance with the side yard setback?
Well, I currently have a one-car garage now, that's attached, and that garage was gonna be demolished and the new garage be put in place. I think if it's a one-car garage, within the setback, I think it would just be one oversized car garage versus a two-car garage. I don't think I'd be able to get two vehicles in there.
So where the one-car garage is right now on the existing house, does that become part of the new house, or does that become part of the two-car garage?
The one-car garage now would be demolished.
Right.
And then the new two-car garage still is part of the house. Just that one goes away and the new one gets attached to where that is, and it would be a two-car garage.
Personally, I think, excuse me, Chairman, by looking at the situation that he has from the plot plan and to rearrange that and have to be forced to put it on the back, remove his deck, and now you're encroaching upon your rear yard setback
Yeah,
is a whole
correct.
nother issue. I personally think it meets the threshold of a variance in this particular situation.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I think the first issue is is it a circumstances relating to the shape of or the topography and specific to this lot, which I think the sewer line sort of makes this a unique situation, not something that's typical in the area. At least he's sort of hemmed in on one side. And then, as Drew pointed out, the other part of it has to do with substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, which, it sounds like a significant undertaking to put it in a location that wouldn't, be in compliance. In another location on the lot, it seems like this is really the only place.
Okay.
And then the last point is whether relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw, which I think, the purpose of the side yards and is really protection for the neighbors, and there seems to be unanimous support from the neighbors that the project go forward. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
For future reference, if the board denied the variance, could he reapply for a special permit, or is it kind of kill the whole deal?
No, he could, yeah, what we would do is, if we did deny it, what we would do is deny without prejudice, and that means that he could come back.
Okay.
And re-advertise for a special permit.
Yeah.
But, one of the things, I think what we should do is, we should address the issue that the applicant is here for, which is a variance.
Yeah.
And does it meet the high bar for a variance? And I think Drew's saying it, you're comfortable with it. Bob, you're saying you're comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable with it.
You're comfortable with
I
it?
am.
Okay.
I guess I've only been on it for a couple of years, but I think that bar is pretty high, and,
It's
if
extremely high,
you,
yeah.
you bought a house, this is the lot, it is what it is, that you bought to put it on. But I can understand some of these things with the utilities kind of forcing you one way. Yeah, that's hard.
Can I ask a couple questions about the
Sure.
design?
Yep, yeah.
The right side, which is gonna be on your neighbor's side,
Mhm.
correct? So there's just the one window going in on that, is that gonna be you said primary space, like a bedroom suite or
Yeah, that would be.
bonus room
That
or?
would be the part of the bedroom, yes.
Okay, so one window on that side, so there's not, like you're
No, just the
peering
one
over,
window.
you're not peering over a fence, okay? And the door is the garage door
Correct?
to get outside,
Yes.
and then the other two are just windows in the garage.
Yeah, those two windows are already on the single-car garage are already existing.
Yes, I saw
but
those.
yes.
Okay, so nothing's really changing except a height situation.
Correct.
Now being a two bay garage with a room over.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, looking at the front elevation of it, where everything now comes kind of smooth across and
Mhm.
you're coming forward a little bit, but you're staying within that
Correct.
setback. I have no problem with that. And again, like I said, the topography, you are kind of stuck, I think. And, as far as the character of the neighborhood or any detriment, I think it's a pretty good-looking addition. I don't see any issues where it's way out of line with the other houses around you. So I'm comfortable with the variance.
I just want to go back to, because I'm looking at the picture from the, I forgot what it actually looks like when I drove by. Are you changing anything on the, in the front of the house? I guess that's the dining room. Is that being
So-
changed?
So where the front of the house is now, there's a set of stairs that brings you into the kitchen, if you will. Those stairs go away when the house gets moved forward, So in turn, that adds a window to that section of the property just before the garage, as well as above.
Okay, so. Okay, so right now, you have a door on the front of the house that's set back in line with the garage. That's
Yes,
all gonna come out and basically,
come
the
forward.
front is gonna be,
Yes,
straight.
it's gonna be plumb going
Yep.
straight across.
Okay. Okay. So, for me, what it's really gonna come down to is, can you put an addition on any other part, can you put it on the other side of the house? And you've shown that you can't. I agree with, I think what everybody said is, it's not gonna be detrimental to the neighborhood. It's in character of the houses in the neighborhood.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What's the plan for the trailer once you,
Oh, that goes away.
just selling that?
It's gonna get sold. You're not the only
Oh,
one
you're
that asked that.
parking
My
on
neighbor
Mr.
asked it
Murray's
too.
driveway or
Yeah,
something.
no, Murray asked the same question. I said it goes away.
Yeah, I think it was the trailer there kind of made the whole aesthetics of everything going, where is that two-car garage gonna go? But if that trailer isn't
No, the
there,
trailer goes away.
we might have to make that a condition.
Okay, anybody have anything else? Anybody from the audience want to speak on this?
Is it a majority for variance or is it two-thirds?
So, 20 feet required, but it's gonna be 8.5. Is that that's what we're at, 8.5?
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think through the application of that other section of the bylaw, 15 would be required
Okay,
because of the lack of frontage.
okay,
So really, the variance would be from 15 feet to 8.5
okay.
at the closest point.
Still quite significant for a variance. But we have given out variances before, and I think it's for these special cases where, okay. Anything else? Okay. On this, it'll be the 5 members voting. I'm gonna ask the applicant if he wants to close the hearing, but it'll be the 5 members voting, and it will require a 4 out of 5 votes for this to pass. Okay, at this point, do you want to add anything else, or do you want to close the hearing?
No, I'd like to close the hearing.
Okay. Okay. This is just to close the hearing. At the request of the applicant, anybody have anything else to add? Okay, good. So at the request of the applicant, could I have a motion to close the hearing?
So moved?
Moved by Judy,
Second.
second by Drew. Any further discussion on closing the hearing? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay. Now, people, everybody's comfortable with this, or at least moving forward for the vote.
Yes.
Could I have a motion to approve case number 22-29 for 26 Park Lane for a variance pursuant to section 6B1 for the schedule of dimensions for relief of the minimum side yard setback within the Residence A. This would be based on the plot plan by C.S. Kelly Land Surveyors dated 9/28/22, and the set of plans submitted from Design Concepts by Dennis Valeri dated, it's gonna make me,
8/16/22.
8/16, young eyes, 2022. Standard conditions, and anything else that people want as conditions on this?
I believe there was a condition
Yeah.
requested by the engineering department regarding excess
Yep.
excavation.
Yes, you are right. And that was from engineering that asked that all, no grading, so surplus, so a condition would be surplus excavation material from the proposed addition shall be removed, except that required to backfill the proposed foundation and existing driveway. Anything else? So could I have a motion to that effect?
So moved?
Moved by Judy,
Second.
second by Drew. Any further discussion on this variance? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? None, and abstain. Okay, okay, congratulations, good luck. And it'll take, do you know how it works with the appeal process and everything?
No, I do not.
So we'll have a decision drafted probably within a couple of weeks. It'll go to the town clerk, and then after that, there's a 20-day appeal period where a neighbor or somebody could come in and say that they want to appeal the decision. But, so even though we did approve it, it's not effective until that appeal time with the clerk runs out, so.
Okay.
Okay, but I, yeah, so, okay,
All right, thank you, members of the board,
luck.
appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck with
Good
the
night.
project.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good. So, other board business. So we have set the 2023 schedule, and we had that last time, and I just want to and Patrick, I didn't see any minutes from the meeting.
They weren't
I looked,
November 16th?
yeah. Did,
I thought I had uploaded those.
This is in the Dropbox.
They were in the
oh,
Dropbox?
it was in
Okay.
the Dropbox, I looked for an email, okay.
Sorry about that.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay. So, let's just go right through what we had on the agenda. So, dates for, the only one that I wanted to take out was February 19th. I'm sorry, not February, April 19th. That was the only one that I had a conflict with. Everything else looked, how do people feel about the August meetings?
August 2nd would be preferably.
Okay. Usually in the summertime, we go to 2 meetings. In July, July and August, we have, so, I'm sorry, we go to 1 meeting. So July is still in there, and this would give us 1 August meeting if people are okay with that.
So which August, when are you talking about taking out?
August 2nd?
Take a second out?
Second?
Yeah.
Okay.
So right now, it looks like, you know, in meetings, if they don't fill up, you guys know, we don't feel that it's necessary to just have meetings for meeting's sake. But April, so Patrick, April 19th would be out and August 2nd would be out.
Okay.
Was there a question last time about the town meeting?
Yeah, I didn't have
Oh.
a chance to look. Did that,
I'm sorry. Yeah, and I completely forgot to find out that
Okay.
date.
Yeah, because that would be in the May
be the May
timeframe.
timeframe?
And it could either be May
Either
3rd or
or.
May 17th, so,
We can hold.
yeah.
I mean, we at least know the first quarter of '23
Yeah.
is pretty set. So we can check on that and then approve the schedule at that point.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so just, if you would, check on the May one, and might as well check the, what is it,
Fall, too.
Fall town meeting,
Okay.
because we really don't want to have it, the week of town meeting, there's just too much going on, so, please check those dates. Would that be fall town meeting, is that, October or November?
It's October.
September, isn't it?
October.
It's October.
October, yeah,
Yep.
okay.
October.
Okay. Okay. So if you can check that, and we wouldn't have meetings the week of town meeting. Okay. We good with that? Okay.
Yep.
Next one, acceptance of performance bond for site stabilization under condition C21, Cedar Edge and Cedar Crossing 40B development.
Want to kind of go through that quickly?
Yep, let's go through that.
So the Cedar Edge Cedar Crossing project, 40B project, also known as 55 Summer Street, they are in the process right now of site prep. Now, they've had their pre-construction meeting with the town, have gone over conditions relating to requirements for pre-construction only. At the current schedule that they provided, building permits or anything like that is likely for early April. And so this condition in particular reflects a site stabilization bond. That's a requirement of, or one of the conditions of the comprehensive permit. This is in the event that if the applicant walks away, if there's some sort of unforeseen circumstance where no work can be conducted within 12 months, the town retains that performance bond in order to stabilize the site and mitigate any negative environmental impacts that may have happened during site clearing. So the language of the bond itself was vetted through town council. The figure of $350,000 for the bond was discussed between, professional town staff such as the town engineer, conservation agent, and then their side as well. So that's where I guess the figure comes from, and then the language of the bond is conducted through town council. So right now, I guess based upon my memo, just for kind of more or less an official kind of board accepting the bond or a vote to accept the bond. And why that's before the ZBA is because the ZBA, being the authority for the issuance of the comprehensive permit, will also be the authority that is in charge of a reduction or releasing of the bond. So typically, when the zoning board takes on the authority of other town regulatory boards during the comprehensive permit process, the same is true for this bond process. It would come to this board to, under direction of the town engineer, so to speak, if this bond needs to get utilized or released. So that's why it's up for the board just to vote to accept.
Okay. And I do think that $350,000 is reasonable. Always prefer a little bit more, but I think it's reasonable for that site.
That's a question. It talks about how long the bond will stay in place until all associated sediment control and site stabilization work is completed. But it also talks about if there's a period of time of 12 months where they've stopped construction and
Yep.
things just grind to a halt, that they would be available. So are we really talking about it being in place until the completion of construction?
I think
Of
it's
the
more
whole
accurate.
project,
Yeah,
of the whole project,
correct.
okay.
Yep, sorry.
And at that time, the board could rely on somebody going out there saying, looks good,
Yep.
Okay,
No, that's exactly right.
before it gets released.
Yes.
But I think the key part is that if there's no construction activity for 12 consecutive months,
Right.
then the board can act and have,
Right.
you know, revegetation or site stabilization take place,
Exactly.
so.
Yep.
Okay.
So, Bob, was your question or comment about once they start construction actual?
Well, I just didn't know exactly what was meant by sediment control and site stabilization. So they, you know, they're gonna do some sediment control before they even start construction, you know.
Gotcha.
But
All right.
so I didn't know if it was like the initial sort of site preparation work for those purposes, or whether it's really intended to be that the entire site is stabilized after the construction, so that all vegetation's in place, everything's
Okay.
as it should be. In
Does-
other words, so that it stays in place until they're finished with the project, as opposed to just the initial site clearing phase.
Does the bond change, or is there an additional bond? Say construction started and they get foundations in and they start to put up boards and then so that would be more, you need more money probably,
Well, I think the bond is only for purposes of stabilizing.
Stabilizing the
site.
land itself,
It's
okay.
not to complete
Yep.
the project, but.
Correct.
okay.
And what agent from the town checks on the quality and
Of
the placements of all the conservation?
The conservation, particularly for like
Okay.
erosion control, and then town engineering as well, just for, you know, just civil engineering purposes. So, conservation agent and the civil engineer in particular for this bond.
Okay.
Patrick, do we need to vote on this, or would,
I think just probably a vote to accept the bond
Okay.
as written. I think that would just for on record.
would somebody make a motion to accept the bond as written for $350,000 for site stabilization for the South Walpole Cedar Edge project?
So moved.
Second?
Moved by Judy, second by Tim. Any further discussion on the bond? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay. And the next thing we had on our agenda was just a follow-up to the accessory in-law suites. And I gotta say, you know, I thought it was really good. That was a productive meeting that we had. And so, Patrick and I have talked, he's made the correct, you know, some changes, and these are just proposed changes. I think the way this should move forward is that it either, preferably the planning board or selectmen. So tell us where we are,
So-
as far as, we've done our initial work. Now somebody else is gonna carry it to town meeting.
Correct. So on December 1st, I was able to meet with the planning board, both to discuss this bylaw and then a few other proposed amendments that the building commissioner and myself had thought about and wanted to bring forward to the board. I felt the board was receptive. There wasn't any vote to to sponsor these articles just yet. So just to clarify for anyone that's not familiar, so right now, the warrant period is open to have an article on the warrant. For any zoning article like this, you have to go through the process of having a public hearing through the planning board, advertising it, before eventually moving forward to town meeting, and then it would have to be voted upon at town meeting. So, right now, I guess I'm hoping to get back on the planning board's agenda for their first meeting in January, hopefully, with.
Planning board?
Planning board, correct, based upon some of their comments on the other articles I brought forward, making those corrections to be more final. And then for this one in particular, I guess the feedback I got from the planning board is that a lot of this kind of runs through the zoning board. So they would like to see if the zoning board is okay with this draft. That's, I think, what they were looking for based upon my discussion with them
Okay.
last week.
So are they looking, because we could take a vote on it if are they looking for us to vote on saying that we're in favor of putting this draft forward?
I think that's always good to have.
Okay.
I didn't say that specifically, but.
So,
whatever it is.
I think it's something that we could do and we should do.
Yeah.
And it enters the public hearing process, so, you know, we're not gonna be the last ones with our fingerprints on this. Other people can say they wanna change things, add things. So by no means is this, you know, this is not a done deal.
Yeah, so typically when you get an article, or zoning article on the town warrant, you can either go through the planning board, the select board, or it can be a citizen petition. So, being that this is zoning, the planning board, I guess, is the avenue that ideally we would like to go on for zoning. No.
I have some comments on
Yep.
that. I watched the planning board meeting when you were there, Patrick, and when you went over this,
Yep.
there was a couple of members on the planning board, or one anyway, that didn't like it already.
Yep.
And like, when they get the last fingerprint on it, I have concerns. We use it all the time.
Mhm.
And the other articles that you're putting forward, even though they're in the zoning board,
Yeah.
zoning bylaws, most of them seem to be more planning board related. Some of the excavation things and some of
Yeah,
the things you
of
went over. I feel that we should, this should go, be a petition to the Board of Selectmen. This particular,
This
the
particular.
in-law suite one, they appoint us.
Mhm.
And, you know, we're asking for this change. It's a tool that we use all the time,
Okay.
more than the planning board ever does. And so my concern is, you know, we can have it the way we like it,
Okay.
and then
It comes out something
it
different.
comes out something totally different, and then it's a mess at town meeting, because then we would want to put our article on as the main, reinvent the wheel, make it the main motion, go to the FinCom hearings, tweak it again, and I just really think that we should be the final draft. We would then let the select board do the public hearing, we can be there, people will go,
Well, being,
and then it would be our,
with the zoning article, though, it would have to go through the planning board for the public hearing. The planning board doesn't have to sponsor it to go on the warrant, but the actual
right,
public
right, no,
hearing
that's, I
would.
guess that's
Yep.
what I meant, okay, so, but I mean, for them to sponsor it, and I think, you know, I would just hate to see our work,
Yep.
and I think everybody feels that way about their own articles, but I just think that.
No,
we-
I think we've put thought into it. We deal with this all the time.
Exactly.
Yep.
And I fully expect that through the public hearing process, things might change a little bit, because there might be some people that have better ideas than all of us. But I think I like your idea that it should be sponsored by the select board, because they appoint the zoning board. And I think that would be, because the zoning board does not usually get involved with this. I think we're only involved with it because we deal with this
Right.
so
All the
much,
time.
and we're trying to improve it for everybody in the town.
Right.
So, would you see if?
Yeah, absolutely.
If the select board would sponsor it, and even though the planning board they'll hold the public hearings on it, but it will be a select board
Sponsored article. not
sponsored
the warrant.
article.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think they have one more meeting in December, and they should meet before the warrant closes, so I'll make sure to talk to their secretary about getting on for a meeting.
Okay.
During my interview last night, they asked about some zoning changes during the questioning, and I did allude to, because they were particular about affordable housing and different housing things. So I did mention our changes to this bylaw, that we might be coming to them to ask them to
Okay.
sponsor it, but.
Yeah.
And the planning board will make a recommendation still, right? Even though they won't be the sort of sponsoring it, they'll say,
Correct, yeah, so
could still say, we're against it for the following reason, yeah.
that can certainly happen. So yeah, legally, that is the process. You know, you have more avenues to get on for sponsorship, but any zoning article will need that public hearing with the planning board,
Perfect.
where they can vote to support or not. Yeah.
But so, back to the work we did at the last meeting, I think the document that we have right now, I'm real comfortable with it. I'm comfortable putting that forward, saying, you know, if zoning changes are gonna be made, we'd be comfortable with this. Do other board members feel they're comfortable with it
You guys did some really good work on it.
as drafted?
Yeah.
Did you ever follow up, or did Mr. Crowley ever speak to how many people come in and re-register their in-law units? after the change? And
That particular discussion, no. I mean, I know typically, when they have a building permit come in, if anything, they usually have a listing of anything that was approved for an in-law unit, and, it rides with the deed for the house. But that particular discussion, if they come in to re-register, that's not something that they really deal with.
But did you even ask them?
About re-register?
Do people come in and re-register their,
No, I don't, because I don't believe that's what they need to do under the current definition for the ownership, or is it the requirements. So all that is they do keep a listing of what's approved, and other than that, I mean, the applicant has to record it with the registry of deeds, so.
and it
when
goes
they-
with the property?
It goes with the property, so one of the processes is, once this board approves any special permit or variance or any of that relief, that decision needs to be recorded at the registry of deeds by the applicant, and that recorded copy must be submitted with the building department, when they're applying for their building permit, to notify that, yep, you got it approved from the ZBA, and you've recorded it properly, so it's on your deed, essentially, so.
Does that answer your question?
yeah.
Because I think the
I
answer is
just-
he didn't ask.
Well, no, I thought we talked about
We did.
approaching to find out, because that was kind of the understanding was that when the transfer of the deed, somebody comes back in to make sure that they fulfill the same standard. And though we didn't really believe that was necessarily the case, I guess, I thought that's what we were gonna
Yeah.
check out.
I mean, it does say, item 6 in C, does say when ownership of the property changes, the new owner shall notify the building commissioner to update the accessory in-law suite list. So there's, they're supposed to file some sort of notification that there's a new owner.
I just personally feel that what the work is that we did is great for structuring one's application, but the concern, I guess, is always the transfer of the next ownership group, and I think,
It's not in the bylaw to register it now, so that's my answer. There's no
Right.
process in terms of, currently, in terms of someone buys a home and goes to the building department to say, yep, I have an in-law. It would come up, I guess, if there's a building permit associated with that project where they need to make changes to the in-law, I guess. But ultimately, the initial application or the initial approval for the in-law through this board at the very least, since the zoning has changed, that's where they're notified and where that's basically kept on file for them, for their purposes to know which homes in town have an approved in-law unit.
Okay, let me,
And
I want to take it a step. If somebody buys a house that has an in-law suite
Yep.
in it, and they don't go to the building permit, they don't go to the building department and say that we have a in-law suite, and 2 years go by, does that lapse because that use is not taking place?
So if they got approval for the in-law unit,
They got
never
approval
built
for
the in-law unit?
It was used as an in-law unit by the people that live there.
Okay.
The house is sold.
Mhm.
The new people don't do anything for, say, 3 years. And then they say, oh, we want to have we have an in-law unit.
Yeah.
Well, would it lapse under, 40A, where the use that did not continue for 2 years?
I guess if you're keeping it as a habitable dwelling, then who's to really monitor if it's being you know what I mean? So if someone lives in the house, owns the house, we're not, they know they have the approval for the in-law unit, but I guess what you're saying is like, does grandfathering not kick in or something like that? But all I can say is the special permit rides with the land. So
The
that's-
special permit rides with the land, but
Yeah.
if somebody, do you understand?
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying
No.
about the 2-year, if you don't use it for 2 years,
Mhm.
my understanding is that you lose it, you lose that.
Well, there's a requirement that you commence the use within 2 years of getting it, or the permit lapses. But once you commence the use, then you start it, and then there would have to be a separate provision, I think, in the bylaw that says, and if you stop the use, for a period of X number of months, then
Right.
you no longer.
Yeah. Some of the bylaws I looked at in other towns, if the in-law apartment was not I don't know if it said, they actually asked for the affidavits, which we were gonna put on the application, but
Yep.
that's for the current process.
Yep.
But, some of the communities have, within 6 months, if there's no in-law use, they have another 6 months to remove the kitchen. Now, who's to say someone doesn't want a second kitchen in their house and they just wanna, pass through the unrestricted casement and just use the house as one? We can't say that they can't do that. But I understand, Drew, we did have a big conversation over, well, what's the checks and balances is, new owner comes in, yes, it is a registered use with a deed, passes through, but who's gonna live there? And it's kinda like big brother, big government, but I mean, it's the whole purpose. I mean, are they coming in thinking they can rent it? I mean, there's gotta be a way to figure out, from this side, a letter saying, you just purchased a home that has an in-law apartment.
Okay, let me go this route. You have a business in a residential area, but it's been there, either special permit or grandfathered. Let's go special permit. You have a special permit for a business, I guess you wouldn't get a special
No,
permit
you
for a
wouldn't.
business in a residential area.
You have a pre-existing use, so you
pre-existing
have
use.
yeah, so you got there's an old building, it was a barber shop, it's been there for 100 years or whatever. It's always been used as a barber shop. So if you're saying in a situation where they go out of business, they leave, can somebody go back and utilize that as a barber shop?
The next day they can.
Absolutely.
Very clear they can.
Yep.
2 years, but 2 years of it sitting vacant, I understand that after 2 years, that you lose the use.
I think it's if you expand the use, if it's
No.
still within
It is
that
if
structure.
if you don't use it in 2 years.
But that's for a legally non-conforming use, where if you get a special permit, you're conforming by
Yeah.
virtue of your special
Your
permit.
special
That's
permit.
separate, yeah.
I'm just trying to walk it through my head.
No,
so.
Totally.
Because
Yeah, I hear.
I could
No,
see-
I think the problem with this, I mean, I think it's very well intentioned, but there's almost no way to enforce it, right? I mean, there's
Right.
no way, you can't knock on doors and say, hey, I wanna see your in-laws,
Who's living there?
We're not gonna do that.
No,
right?
well, that's what I
No.
mean, you're not gonna do bedroom
And-
checks and stuff, but I mean, but I get we talked about it a lot, but I mean, I think, to rely on, if the building department keeps a list, and they must get somebody gets a notification of a change of ownership in town hall, assessor's office or whatever.
Yeah.
It should flag something that says, this property was sold, and, go to the building inspector's office, they look at the file, they say, yep, they have an in-law, send them a letter and say, I have 60 days to just, voluntarily fill out this form and let us know who's there. I mean, the assessors used to send out packages of, to property owners and with rental property to list everything, the rents and all that stuff, and that was a voluntary situation. So I don't know if it's just too much, but I kind of do like to think that the use is being continued. You hope it is. Same time, sometimes it's not.
But it's all
That we
good
all
until there's a
know.
problem, and that's, again, I can see something that, a nice peaceful neighborhood, nobody even knows that there's an
In-law.
an in-law suite that's in this house, because it hasn't been used, and somebody, buys the house, and now they have somebody living in there, and the neighbors say, whoa, what's going on here? This looks like it's being used as a two-family house. And we would say, well, yes, they had a special permit for it, but I was wondering if there's something that it would lapse if it wasn't being used for a number of years.
Yep.
But I think what you're saying is, Bob, you don't think it would lapse?
Not without some specific provision that says it. I mean, we could include that in this proposal if we wanted, but I don't think, so long as you make use of it, of the special permit within 2 years, then it's still.
And then after that, it's a in-law suite for the rest of time.
Well, you can always use your property in a conforming way with the bylaw, even if you have a special permit. So if they said, yeah, it was an in-law suite, but we bought it and we don't want it to be an in-law suite, we can take the kitchen out, we can, and make it a single-family home, if that's allowed by right under the zoning bylaw, they could just do that
Yeah.
via building permit. And there's no, like, what, I guess in my mind, I'm not sure what the, you know, the need for updating the list all of the time, because once it's been approved as an in-law suite, the concern is that they turn it into multifamily. But multifamily is not really allowed in a lot of places where these are built, so that would be prohibited, you know, a prohibited use which they could be enforced against. But again, it comes down to whether and how you can enforce something that takes place inside the house, basically.
Right.
Well, that's what I said, somebody might buy it and wanna use it as a single family, use the, you know, the arch, you know, case, the opening, passing back and through. They might want a second kitchen, just
Yeah.
let the kids cook over there and the grown-ups can cook in the other primary.
And that is, you know, that, I guess that goes back to, I think it's the ownership requirements, where ownership of the property changes, the new owner shall notify the building commissioner as to the update, so as to update the accessory in-law suite list. So that is really, I can't speak to that because I'm not the building department, and I apologize for not following up, but that is one of those things where if they don't do that, how do you really enforce that unless it's brought to your attention that, hey, they're renting this out, or it's, you know, someone could easily say like, oh yeah, now my kids live in that section, and, you know, it's.
So, if people want, and I think it would make sense that if we vote to send this draft to the select board and request that they put it on for a town meeting. Does somebody want to make that motion? And we can discuss it after somebody makes the motion.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Drew, second by Judy. Okay, any further discussion, people? Yeah.
Yep, I had a couple, I just had one question on the number 8 on page 2 there, which was about the water meter. I put in the exception of the irrigation, just so that, you know, people would know that they could still have their irrigation meter, in that all utilities within the accessory in-law suite shall be, I'm not clear on the interconnected with the utility serving the principal dwelling, and the only reason I say that is because the language I gave you all, and I don't have my copy with me, it seemed to be good enough, and it passed the, you know, the test with the AG and 2 or 3 other towns. So now we're, I guess the interconnected part bothers me, because you might not be able to, what's interconnected?
Well,
That's what I guess
I got
maybe Drew
comments.
can answer that question, what's
I was
interconnected?
gonna say, I got
don't
comments
know.
from both you and Bob, so I was like,
Yeah.
I guess I'll let that discussion happen.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think the language that was in there before, as far as to service by, all utilities is to be serviced by one, whatever it was, 1 meter, whatever. I thought that was
Yeah.
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, no, I think the language was 1 meter for the water, but then it said all utilities. I think the intent was that all of the utilities would be sort of integrated with the main house, and that there wouldn't be a separate electric meter associated with
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right, so I guess I just thought, I mean, I didn't get the interconnected part, because, I mean,
Okay.
if we're clear with, and I'm sorry, I don't have my, 2 drafts back, but.
Wait, so, and all utilities within the accessory in-law suite shall be serviced by the principal dwelling. I don't know if that.
No, I'm sorry, I don't have my prior drafts with me.
But that's what it looks like was struck out.
Yeah.
Shall be serviced by the principal dwelling.
Shall be serviced by the principal dwelling.
Is that from last time? Oh, that's from-
You put in the interconnected, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And,
that's fine. I'm
Yeah.
happy to go back to that.
okay.
Shall be serviced,
Put that
okay,
change.
yep, all right, that's fine.
And this might just fall under a pet peeve, but I always worry when terms are defined in two different spots in the bylaw. And so in this section 5, we have B defined, it says accessory in-law suite defined, and then in Article 14, accessory in-law suite is defined as well. And I don't know if it's better to simply refer, like, let's say that Article 14, under that definition, we could say, please see Article 5B2.
I'm not even sure if you
Or
even
something
really
like-
need that. If you keep it within the definition section, you could probably just strike the section from, the bylaw itself.
Yeah. The only thing that's added here, and so it's not exactly the same as what's in Article 14, is that provided that such separate dwelling unit has been established pursuant to the provisions of this section. So if we strike it in B, I think we would say, we would include the definition, but then include this last part that says, provided that such separate dwelling unit has been established pursuant to the provisions of section 5B.2. That makes sense? So if you look at the
Yeah, so add that
There's
section
that
to the
last
definitions.
proviso,
Provided.
yeah,
Six-
if we're gonna do that.
5-B.2.
That way, somebody might amend this definition without recognizing that it appears elsewhere, and then you have, over time, you could have two different definitions of the same
Right.
term, so. That was my only thought on that.
So which one would you like to take out?
I mean, I think I would take out the one in B, just because we have a whole separate definition section in the bylaw. But that's just my,
So after A, purpose, take out B?
right, and then make the definition in Article 14 conform to what's exactly right here.
Section 14 under definitions?
Right, at the very end of it, where the first definition, accessory in-law suite, we would have the same definition, but then also say, include the last phrase of the definition that's currently in 5B2B, that says, provided that such separate dwelling unit has been established pursuant to the provisions of, and then it would say, section 5-B.2.
Bob, I hate to be the devil's advocate,
Okay.
but what if the bylaws change and the numbering changes? Then we have to change the definition section. I'm not saying that's
Yeah,
gonna happen
no.
immediately, but that is,
No, that's always a problem when you change section numbers and stuff like that, so. I mean, if it poses a problem for this particular thing, I don't know, maybe I'm making more of it than is
Well,
necessary,
I-
I'm just trying to avoid future
I'm kind of the other,
conflicts.
I'm kind of the other way. I like, when we didn't have a purpose, I thought that we needed a purpose.
Yeah,
And I like to see the definition in the bylaw. And I have no problem with that same language, as long as in the definition section and our definition are exactly the same.
just keep both.
okay,
Because I know there was one of the bylaws I looked at that had the term habitable space. I talked to Patrick
Yep.
about that, and habitable space is defined. But
Right.
that particular town wanted to make it very clear, right up front, that habitable space was the net floor area of finish, and they put it, like, in the bylaw itself.
yeah,
So I don't have a problem with something being in the book twice, as long as they're both the same.
Yep.
Right.
So,
okay.
they're both the same. Are they currently both the same?
No,
They're not.
No,
So
just make them.
So make them the same.
make them both the
in-
same.
But use the section 14 definition, that's the
Yeah.
one that, so this one comes out in section, and 14 goes in, okay.
Okay?
Alright.
Got it?
Yeah, so
Okay.
basically the language that's in the that's in the bylaw, the actual, 5-B.2B, that will be exactly the same verbatim in the definition section. So really, the definition section also needs to have that whole, provided that such separate dwelling unit has been established pursuant to the provisions of section 5-B.2. I can, yeah, alright.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I was gonna add that.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else on that?
Nope.
Good, it's always good to have discussions, and I'm sure there'll be many more discussions And hopefully we get a good bylaw out of this. Okay, so if we want to vote on this and have it go to the select board and request, and of course, we're only requesting that they put it on the warrant. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Good. Okay. Anything else? Oh, yeah, the minutes, and yes, we do have the minutes. They were in the Dropbox. I did look at them just tonight quickly. This is the Tanglewood.
Yeah.
Bob, what do you have?
I just had a couple of my usual nits,
Yep.
on the second page. Um, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth paragraph down, it says Mr. John, and I think that is supposed to be Mr. Lee.
Yep.
And then on page 4 at the top, the very top line, Ms. Conroy provided suggested edits to prevent lodgers or, I think that's supposed to be boarders.
Yep. God, you're good with that.
Did I miss it? Did you change it to Mrs. Conroy? Up here.
Um, Yep, I think that's it.
Anybody have anything else? Does somebody want to make a motion to approve the November 16th?
Sorry.
Oh,
Did you say page 3, the bottom, Mrs. Delaney?
he's deleting. Okay, Drew?
Oh, Mr.
Thank you.
Conroy or Ms. Delaney, hey.
With that correction also, Drew.
Sorry about
Does
that.
somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 16th with the corrections noted?
So moved.
Moved by Judy,
Second?
second by Tim. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, so carried. Okay. Good. Anything else for the board tonight?
I do have one question. And I don't have my book in front of me, but the section that allows in the central business district, 3 times the,
3.5 times.
3.5 times the,
I think it's buildable.
for
re-
the
commercial
upstairs
space.
apartments.
Yeah.
I think we talked about it with the case that isn't obviously before us right now, but I just had a question with the commercial space on the second floor. And I didn't know if that would be something, not particular to this case, I'm just saying that, should we look at that as something that the language should be ground level? I don't know if that affects anything, but
So, what?
So, yeah, that's interesting, because it occurred to me afterwards. Could somebody put
you could keep going.
commercial, well, but could you put your commercial up on the top level and then have living units on the ground level? Because
You
Yes.
can't, no. So
It-
the ground level still has to be a void of residential.
okay, so,
It's just a thought, because
Yeah.
it was just one of those little boxes I was checking off as we
Yeah.
were discussing it, and having done like High Plain, and
Yeah.
then looking at other projects that have come, not to be negative about it, but it just does raise a question. It allows, the residential upstairs, but by bumping more commercial on the second level above the ground, it allows for more residential, because it expands the square footage of commercial space, and I,
so you'd be more comfortable if it just said the commercial space on the ground floor,
right,
you can get
3.5
3.5
times that. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I don't wanna
I think
be-
that was the intent. I mean, clearly that,
I think that was
that
the
was the
intent,
intent.
yeah.
but.
And it's okay, I mean, And I just looked, I was just looking at the case over on, Spring and West there, where there'll be the condos and the
Yeah.
office space downstairs, and that's CBD as well. Yeah, CBD.
So,
It's just-
yeah, so
Why-
I think that's a discussion we should continue, you know.
Yeah.
I-
I just
I
a
wanted
thought,
to-
because while we're doing bylaws and
Yeah.
this and that, it was just something
Yeah.
it triggered something when
Yeah,
Not to
discussions were taking
go on a
place.
whole, I think my just general opinion of, I guess, the way this is worded, both within the central business district and the business district, is kind of unique, just from a, like, regional zoning perspective. Most use, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of times use like a dwelling units per acre or an FAR to determine density, where ours is really contingent on dimensional requirements, which honestly I think is more flexible and favorable to a developer, in my opinion, because you're not, some towns will, even if you have the space for it, they'll still squarely put it dwelling units per acre, so I know that's not really what we're talking about.
Right,
But
no, I
it's a
understand
unique
that.
thing with the bylaw itself.
But just food
Yep.
for thought for the next bylaw sweep.
Yep.
okay. If nothing else, does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Judy. Second by Drew and Tim. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained. Good night, everybody.
Right.